Hello and welcome to my Project Ideas YouTube channel. And in this particular video, we will be looking at how we can create a simple employee management system using Java. First, let's look at the code here. We have several import functions because we want to use a lot of IO, especially since we want the user to enter the various details of the employee that he or she wants in her company. And we'll also use the array list, and we'll also use the scanner class here. Okay, so let's move on to our code here. We have the employee class here, which implements the serializable class. We have our various variables. So the first one is the ID of the employee. Then we have the name of the employee. We have a salary. We have a contact number and an email ID. So when we want to enter a new employee into the system, we will essentially be using these 5 tools or these 5 details of the employee to basically save the employee details inside our system. Okay, now moving on to our first function here, it's called an employee function, where we'll pass in all of these 5 variables inside the argument. So this will be our constructor basically. And we'll be initializing all of these variables by their ID, name, salary, contact number, and email ID variables that has been passed as arguments here. Okay, now this function is called toString methods, because here we will simply be trying to convert everything into a string so that we can basically print it out later for the employee details. So we have employee details here. We have a name, salary, contact number, email ID, and so on and so forth. Now let's move on to our next class, which is the employee management class here. And this employee management class will be where we set the entire tone of our program, and we'll set how we can use various different options of the program of our employee management system basically. So here we have a general display called an employee list. And we have a string.format here where we'll format the various arguments of our employee. That's the ID, name, salary, contact number, and email ID. So we want to print it out in a nice way. And here we'll run a for loop for all the employees currently present in our system here. And we will show all of the employees here. So we'll print out in a nice format all of the employee details here. Moving on to our main function here, again, we have our 5 variables here. We'll make an object of our scanner class because we will want to input the name of the employees and so on. Okay, so we'll make objects of the file input stream, object input stream, file output stream, and object output stream. And we'll set all of these to null here. Inside our try-catch block, we'll be using this particular file called n.java workspace eclipse program. So this inside this entire text file, we'll be creating our file. So whenever we want to make a new employee inside our system, we will be making a new list or a new array inside that file, if you can think about it like that. So we'll be adding another file inside our workspace here. And this will be placed inside a try-catch block, obviously. Okay, so now we'll have a for loop here. So it's a do-while loop, if I'm not mistaken, yeah. And inside this will be our entire format here. So we'll print it. So this is what we'll essentially be printing out to the user. So this will be our user interface from here on. Here we'll give the user 6 options. As you can see, the first is to add an employee to the system, to search for an employee, to edit the employee details, to remove an employee for the system, to show us or to print out, display all the employees working in the company. And finally, we'll also give an option to exit from the application here. And we'll be waiting for a choice here. So how we will be implementing a choice here is by using the switch case. Here we'll ask the user to input a choice by the next int function of the object of the scanner class here. So inside our switch case, our first case will be to search to add an employee to the system. So whenever we input 1, it will ask us to enter the ID of the employee, the name, salary, contact number, email, and so on of the employee. If we select 2, which is search for an employee in the system, so here the searching will be done on the basis of the ID. So whenever you click 2, the program will, the employee management system will ask you to enter the ID of the employee. Once you enter the ID, this program will check for all of the IDs of all the employees currently present in that file. And if it gets a match, then it will print it out. If it does not get a match, then it will give you an error message here saying the employee details are not available. Please enter a valid ID. If you select case 3 here, which is to edit the details of an employee, edit the details of an employee, then it will just take you back to this to case 1 essentially, because both of them are kind of the same. So once you do that, it will again search for an ID. So it will ask you to enter the ID of the employee that you want to edit details of. Once you place the ID here, then it will again go inside a do while loop, where it will ask you to edit which particular option of the ID. So do you want to edit the employee ID? Do you want to edit the name of the employee, salary, so on and so forth? Again, this will also be done inside a switch case. So for example, if you select, I want to edit the ID of the employee. So if you go to case 1, and then you can enter the new ID here. If you want to change the name, you can go to name, salary, contact information, and employee ID. So you can essentially change all of this. And 6 is just to exit out from the loop. And for example, if you enter an ID that does not match with any employee ID in the current system, it will just say enter the correct choice from the list. Or sorry, so for this one, it will just say that I enter a correct choice if you select something outside of this 6. And when you go out of this, if you select an ID that is not in the system currently, it will just give you a message saying employee details are not available. Please enter a valid ID, and it will break off. Finally, if you choose the 4th case here, the 4th case was to remove an employee from the system. Once again, this will also be done on the basis of the employee ID. So it will ask you to enter which particular employee ID you want to remove from the system. When you enter the ID, then it will just remove that from the array list here. If you enter an ID that is invalid, it will just say that the employee details are not available. Please enter a valid ID. And this will again be placed inside a catch block here. Our 5th case, so our 5th case was to basically print out all the employees working in the company. So yeah. So as you can see here, so this case will simply just print out all of the elements present inside the array list. So our array list has all the employees here, and it will just read the object here. We will print out the array list AL and we'll break off. Our 6th was the exit function here that will simply just exit. So we will be closing all of our file output stream, our object output stream, and so on that we had created here. We will be closing all the different objects that we had created. And we will also be giving a message called you have chosen exit, saving files and closing the tool. And this will go on to system.exit, and it will break off from the switch case. And if you do not select any of the 6 main options, it will just give you a default error message called enter the correct choice from the list. So it will just take you back again, and it will ask you to enter a proper choice or a valid choice. And this is the closure of the main loop here. So do while the switch case is true. This was the main loop here. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the code here, and let's see if we can try to run it. We'll compile it. Okay, yeah, so you see, this is our basic interface. This is how it looks like. It says, welcome to the employee management system. And it gives us the 6 options that I had mentioned in the code here. So this uses the switch case basically. So here, let's add an employee. I choose 1 to add an employee here. It takes some time. Okay, so it says to add an ID here. I'll just add a random ID called 89. a name, salary. I'll just input 35,000 as a salary for the employee. A contact number, contact information, 1234. Okay, an email ID, example@gmail.com. Sorry, this just takes a lot of time to load because I think my laptop is not fast enough. Okay, yeah. So you see, after I entered the email ID, it just prints out all of the details here that I mentioned. I gave an ID, I gave a name, a salary, a contact number, an email ID, and it just takes me back again. So now if I want to do something else, so for example, if I want to search for the employee, so I do 2 here. So my ID was 89, so I need to keep that in mind because it'll ask me for the ID. 89 is my ID here. And this should again bring me up to something like this, where it'll just give me all of the information. Yes, you see the employee details, it has the ID, name, salary, contact number, and email address. Finally, if I want to print out all of the employees working in the company, since I added only one employee, it should just give me an output of one employee. So let's see if that is correct. So if I choose option 5, you see, I chose 5 and it just gives me the ID details of that particular employee here. Now I'll exit. I'll choose 6. Sorry. Yeah. Yes. You have chosen exit, saving 5s and closing the 2. So this successfully brings us to the end of our code here. Hope you like this video. And if you want to watch more such projects about Java, make sure to like and share this video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much for watching.